Today, we're walking through a simple formula that makes tough conversations feel a lot less overwhelming. It's called the three-step difficult conversation formula, and it helps you stay calm, clear, and focused on solutions. The heart of this is state the fact, share the impact, and ask for alignment. When you use these three steps, you take the emotion out of the moment and create space for real productive conversation. Before we get started, remember this session is for educational purposes only, and it isn't a substitute for HR, legal, or organizational guidance. Most of us were never taught how to have difficult conversations, so we fall into habits that don't actually help us. Sometimes we lead with emotion instead of facts, and the conversation escalates before we even get to the point. Sometimes we assume the worst before the other person even speaks. Our imagination fills in the story, and usually not in a helpful way. Another big one is waiting too long. When we sit on something, frustration starts to replace clarity. By the time we finally bring it up, the tone is already heavier than it needed to be. And then there's people pleasing, staying silent because we don't want to make things uncomfortable, but avoiding the discomfort doesn't make the issue go away. It usually makes it bigger. These are all habits, not character flaws. And the good news is that these habits can be replaced. That's exactly what this formula helps you do. Step one is all about clarity. You start by stating the fact, only what you observed, no judgment, no assumptions, no emotion. Facts keep the conversation neutral. They help the other person understand exactly what you're referring to without feeling attacked. For example, I noticed the report was submitted 2 days after the deadline. It's simple, it's specific, and it sets the tone for the rest of the conversation. Once the fact is clear, you explain why it matters. This is where you share the impact. People respond better when they understand the ripple effect of their actions. It helps them see the bigger picture instead of feeling criticized. For example, when it's late, the whole team has to rush to meet the client's timeline. With this sentence, you're not blaming, you're connecting the dots. Step three is where the conversation shifts from tension to teamwork. This is where you invite the other person into the solution instead of placing the responsibility entirely on them. We start by opening with curiosity. That means asking a question that gives them space to share their perspective. Curiosity softens the moment and helps the other person feel heard instead of judged. Next, we co-create a solution. This isn't about telling them what to do. It's about figuring out together what needs to change and what support might help. When both people contribute to the plan, there's more buy-in and less defensiveness. And finally, we confirm the path forward. This is where you restate what you both agreed to, so there's no confusion, no assumptions, and no mixed expectations. It closes the loop and sets you both up for success. A simple example of this step sounds like, going forward, what would help you meet the deadline, and what can I do to support that? It's collaborative, it's respectful, and it keeps the conversation moving towards a solution. Now let's look at how this formula works in real life. No matter the situation, the structure stays the same. State the fact, share the impact, ask for alignment. Here's the first example with a coworker. I noticed you interrupted me twice in today's meeting. That's the fact. When that happens, I lose my train of thought and it's hard to present my ideas. That's your impact. Can we talk about how we can take turns more effectively? That's the alignment, inviting a better way forward. Here's another example for leadership with a direct report. I noticed the last 3 check-ins were rescheduled. There's your fact. That makes it hard for me to support your progress. There's the impact. What's getting in the way and how can we make this work? That's the alignment, partnering on the solution. And here's a personal example with a friend. I noticed you've canceled our plans 3 times this month. That's the fact. I feel disconnected and I miss our friendship. That's the impact. Can we find a time that actually works? And there's the alignment, reconnecting and moving forward. 3 very different situations, but the same formula works every time. The beauty of this formula is in its simplicity. Facts create clarity. Impact creates understanding. Alignment creates partnership. When you use all 3, you keep the conversation grounded and productive, even when the topic is uncomfortable. You can use this at work, at home, and honestly, anywhere communication matters. If you want more soft skills, micro lessons, and resources to support your growth, you can always visit my website at SunniVibes.com.